Martin Popoff here, back with another episode of The Contrarians. This is a solo show, and this is one where we're going to go with our original concept. Way back when we started The Contrarians, our original concept was the idea of we'd look at a band's catalog, and somebody on the team had a contrarian choice for their favorite album by that band. And that's what we're going to look at today. So this is back to the core, back to the original Contrarians, but it is a solo show. And we're looking at a band called Gamma. Love Gamma to death. You know, I did this, what did I call this? Rock the Nation, Montrose, Gamma, and Ronnie Redefined book. Those are available at martinpopoff.com. But yes, Gamma is the band that Ronnie Montrose transitioned into after having the Montrose band. Of course, there's the amazing original Montrose album with Sammy Hagar that eventually went gold. It's a pretty big record out there in the world. People love it. Maybe it's platinum already. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But basically they did that. They did Paper Money. They did Warner Brothers Presents. They did Jump on It. And then Ronnie kind of blew up the band. He's a guy who likes to change things up. He's a real gearhead. That's going to come into our Gamma story as well. And then he actually did the Open Fire album in '78, which, essentially he was one of the guys that was pioneering, I guess along with Jeff Beck. I mean, I'm sure there's a few that was pioneering this idea of these guitar instrumental albums. There eventually was another Montrose album, but the next thing he did was almost like you might call it a futuristic version of Gamma or of Montrose called Gamma. And he had along for the ride Davy Pattison as lead singer, Scottish guy, an amazing voice, really smoky and bluesy. And basically, they only made the 3 albums, and then way later they made a Gamma 4. So let's talk about first off what my choice for favorite Gamma album is and why it is a contrarian choice and why I feel completely valid doing this episode as a true contrarian choice. So my choice for the favorite Gamma album is Gamma 1. So this came out in 1979. I believe the first tour was with Foreigner. They had a little bit behind them and they played with some big bands. But yeah, there's the band, really cool band shot there. That's one of the coolest pictures of Ronnie Montrose there ever was. But as you can see, the idea behind Gamma was that they were a little bit more of a futuristic, moving into the new wave and electronic kinds of sounds that you would get in the 80s sort of thing. So essentially, I mean, you didn't really get new wave out of this band, but you did definitely get electronic sounds and a lot of synthesizer and things like that. And like I say, Ronnie is definitely a here, let's show you the inner sleeve as well. Yeah, we've got on the first one, we've got it's not Denny Carmassi on the first one. It's Skip Gillette. And if you look at my book, Skip really goes off on Ronnie in that. I got a lot of comments from that. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And Alan Fitzgerald, Night Ranger guy, on keyboards here and basically, or no, sorry, I'm on bass here. He's on bass. Jim Alcivar is the keyboardist. So yeah, he comes from the Montrose era as well. But Alan Fitzgerald, I believe he goes on to keyboards in Night Ranger kind of thing. But yeah, so they're a 5-piece band at this point. The classic lineup I was telling you about is more to the Gamma 2. So Gamma 2 was originally my favorite Gamma album for years and years and years, and I think that's the non-contrarian choice. Most of my buddies would pick Gamma 2. It's kind of the heavier album. It's more guitar-y, it's more raw. But this album, so this first album has just been rising in my estimation so much that basically I play this album way more than Gamma 2, and I'm starting to play Gamma 3 a lot as well. The interesting thing about this record is that it doesn't really have a heavy metal production on it. It's a little bit more of you would almost call it like a jazz fusion sort of production. And Skip Gillette is not a big, rock hitter like Denny Carmassi is. So when I tell you a little bit about Gamma 2, we'll talk about that. But so essentially what I love about this album is definitely the sort of futuristic, lots of synthesizers, lots of synthesizer ideas that Jim Alcivar brings to the band. But it does have some of the more commercial Gamma songs, things like Thunder and Lightning and I'm Alive, but it does have the absolute classics like Razor King and Fight to the Finish. Fight to the Finish is my favorite Gamma song now, and it's not even one of their heaviest songs, and it's kind of slow and atmospheric and cool. Solar Heat is like a true jazz fusion, heavy metal fusion intro song. Ready for Action is a fast paced rocker, OTT as we used to call it. Wish I Was on here is a nice ballad, and yeah, with Davy Pattison singing, you definitely get that smoky Bad Company sort of feel from this. No Tears on here as well. But yeah, Razor King is sort of the biggest song. And, it's, traditionally on the Contrarians here, we do often talk about, the set lists and how much were these songs played. This is not a Contrarian choice when it comes to the set list because they didn't tour very much. And if you look at the top songs ever played by Gamma, it is the likes of Razor King, Fight to the Finish. They're the top two. Ready for Action, Thunder and Lightning. So the first four are all from this album. Then you get Voyager from the second one, Mean Streak. Let's see, Mayday, No Tears. Yeah, so start mixing it up. You get a little bit of interesting. Day of the Eagle, Robin Trower. I didn't know they covered that. Two Rolling Stone, Robin Trower. Interesting. Rock the Nation. I can understand why they played that, and I can understand why they played I Got the Fire as well. But so there's my choice for favorite Gamma album. Like I say, it's not as hard rocking as the second one. It's got sort of that intro lineup. It reminds me a little of Gillan. You know how Gillan was shuffling the pieces around before he came onto the standard lineup. And just to show you the rest of the catalog here. So this used to be my favorite Gamma album, Gamma 2. So at this point, we've got Denny, we've got Glenn. Where's our lineup here? We've got Glenn, we've got Denny, Davy, Jim Alcivar still, and Ronnie Montrose still, of course, running things. Very cool. This album cover won some awards for the sharks, the Mick Haggerty album cover, some sharks going through the lawn, and then on the back, really cool. They do this little cutout thing and point to the songs on there and say, here is your song listing. So great design on this. But yeah, this album is a little more, it almost seems like a hot summer album, just kind of like that album cover. You see how the shark fin is cutting through the garden hose as well. But it is heavy, a little bit more of that smoky desert haze that you get on a Robin Trower album. And the likes of Mean Streak and Four Horsemen, Dirty City, Voyager is the mellowest one on here. The cover of Something in the Air, Cat on a Leash, Skin and Bone, Mayday. So an amazing album. I love this band so much. I would say the first album's a 10 and this album's a 10. But then what they did, just show you there's some CDs, Gamma CDs. This was kind of a weird one, The Best of Gamma, featuring Ronnie Montrose and Davy Pattison. There's my Gamma 2 CD. But then what they did is Gamma 3. So there you go. There's your Gamma 3. And what they did at this point is, let me just show you this as well. There's a cool, I think this is Dutch, right? No, it's Italian single for Right the First Time from Gamma 3. And then there is my Gamma 3, right? So the idea with this one is, the main theme that is important to note here is that so we've still got the classic lineup of Ronnie, Davy Pattison, Glenn Lech, and Denny Carmassi. But the big change is Mitchell Froom is in on keyboards, and Mitchell is a huge presence all over this album. And again, it speaks to Ronnie's restless nature and loving gear. He's like an Eddie Van Halen, a mad scientist in the lab, tearing apart guitars and amps, loving to come up with sounds. That's really his legacy. But he loves Gear so much that this is not a very guitar-y album. It's really, predicated a lot on what Mitchell Froom brings to the band and a lot of keyboards. So when this came out as kids, we were shocked and didn't like it, but I really love it now. I love this album a lot now. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. So I still play it a lot, and it's the one I play probably the most in terms of amount that it's gone up in the ranks. But yeah, so the first one I definitely play the most. I play this one the second most, and then Gamma 2, which is, frankly, I'm maybe a little sick of it because it was my favorite Gamma for a long time. And then, unfortunately, there was a Gamma 4 many, many years later. So this came out, and you still had a classic lineup, but Ronnie, again, being the enigmatic guy. Yeah, the actual the only change from Gamma 3 is Ed Roth is in on keyboards. He's a big famous keyboardist with a lot on his resume, but it's not a particularly keyboardy album. It's just weird songwriting that doesn't sound anything like Gamma. Gorgeously, you still got Davy in there, and it is well recorded, and it's quite analog recorded and powerfully recorded, but it's got a lot of just strange songs that don't sound anything like Gamma. It's not very heavy, it's not very futuristic or keyboardy or anything like that. But the amazing songs on here: Darkness to Light, Low Road Home is kind of a cool one about Davy and the whole idea of wanting to go home to Scotland, kind of thing. But yeah, unfortunately, this is definitely not a very good Gamma album, and I've seen people basically agree on that. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. So essentially for my Gamma ratings, I'm going 10, 10, 8, 5 kind of thing, and that's all they did. But amazing band, existing in this. They didn't do very well out there. It was just a weird time for hard rock. And particularly hard rock from California. This is pre-hair metal. It's while the new wave of British heavy metal is going on, and really, besides that, it's really while Van Halen is dominating everything, and they're putting out lots of classic albums. They're literally the one band kind of around doing this thing. I mean, you might look at Riot from New York. Motley Crue starting up, I suppose, but and Sammy Hagar's always around, so there's your connection. But essentially, it was just this strange kind of cool, futuristic. People compare them to Rush sometimes, right? As well. Sort of band. So there you go. My contrarian choice for favorite Gamma album is the ponderous, not particularly passionately delivered. I don't know. It's kind of the academic Gamma album, whereas the second one's the Let Loose and Let's Rock album, and it's really got some chemistry to it. The first one doesn't really have a lot of chemistry, but I still love it to death for its for that academic-ness. So there you go. Check out Gamma. Very cool band. For our situation here at the Contrarians, like and subscribe, do all that stuff. Marco does a great job in keeping the Patreon thing up and going, and essentially, if you become a Patreon subscriber, you are eligible to be on our Dark Horse panel series, and I love doing those things. Those are like 1 hour deep panel analyses of ostensibly Dark Horse albums, ones that I guess that would be contrarian choices if you had picked it for your favorite album. But there you go. Let us know in the comments below what you think of this whole strange Gamma situation. Bye for now.